Welcome to LOA Today. I'm Walt Thiessen. With me today is longtime listener, poet laureate, and Taya Master Anne-Marie Young. This is your Daily Dose of Happy. We are so happy you decided to join us today.
Okay, Anne-Marie, so we get, as you know, a lot of experts on the program. The gentleman who's joining us today, he has an interesting mix. He's an attorney. He's a CPA. He's an author.
Okay.
He's a life coach. He's a walking expert, a weight loss expert. About the only thing that I can't find on here is like everything else. But he covers like, half the world. So this guy, like he's like an expert on almost everything. This is going to be an interesting conversation. We're going to learn a lot today.
I didn't go to medical school.
Didn't go to medical school.
No.
Oh, okay. Well, we won't hold that one against you, actually, because, well, I won't even go there. But let's just say we won't hold that one against you.
Okay.
But Stanley Branstein, welcome to the program. Thank you for joining us today. How's it going out there in Scottsdale?
Thank you for having me, Walt. Thank you, Emery. Nice to be here.
Glad to have you. And we need to know a little bit more about you. I mean, I know a little bit about you. I probably know more than anybody listening right now, but we need to know more about your story and how you ended up doing what you're doing now. Because primarily, like we were talking before, you're a life coach, you're a mindset coach, and there's always a story that leads up to that. So tell us a story.
Well, the story usually comes from figuring yourself out first.
Yeah, no kidding, right?
Yeah. But I'll start at the beginning. We have time. Okay. My mother died when I was 8.
Ooh.
Needless to say, that messed with my head.
Yeah.
And I was actually at school, and the lady from the office came to the door of the school and said, "Stanley, your father called. He said you rode your bike to school. You can go home. He needs you to go home. You can go home." So I'm leaving the school, and I'm wondering what's going on here. I got about a block away from the school, and I fell off my bike, and it hit me. I realized I knew my mother was in the hospital. That's all I knew. And I said, my mother died. I knew it. I don't know how. I knew it.
Right.
And interesting thing to note about the particular spot where I was standing at, I never realized it at the time or for many years, but about 5 or 6 years ago, when I went and retraced my steps, I was across the street from the orphan's home.
Oh my goodness.
So a little irony there.
Yeah.
But so I went home. First of all, I got back on my bike. I was stone cold. I did not cry. I got home, did not cry. Everybody was crying around me, did not cry. My father was busy planning the funeral. We're Jewish, and so we bury our dead very quickly. So he was planning the funeral for the next day.
Right.
And he puts me in his bedroom and he says, "You can cry, do whatever." And my father only had a 5th grade education. He knew to work. He knew I had to work hard, provide for his family, make sure I went to school, make sure I stayed out of trouble. That's all he knew.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't know the psychological, emotional parts of it. And back then, that was 1967.
Yeah. So right.
So
nobody male ever showed anything emotional at that point. You just didn't.
And people didn't think kids need counseling and all that stuff.
Right.
So anyway, so here I am. The funeral's the next day. Still not crying. We go to the funeral home. I see the casket. I started screaming. And I demanded that they open the casket and let me see her. And they didn't want to do it, but they did. They let me see her. And then we went to the cemetery, had the funeral, still no crying, still no crying. For the next month or two, I had dreams or nightmares, depending on how you want to look at it, that in the middle of the night, she'd wake up from the cemetery and she'd walk home.
Oh my goodness.
And then I'd get up and she wasn't there. So this was messing with my head.
Yeah.
Now, living with my father, who was massively obese already to begin with, I don't know the exact weight, at least 350 pounds, if not
my goodness,
375, big. And we both literally ate ourselves to oblivion. If you look at my pictures, I started getting bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. A lot of men like to brag that they're the same size they were when they got married. Well, I am smaller today than I was when I got bar mitzvahed at the age of 13.
No kidding. Wow.
Yeah. So I don't know if that's an accomplishment or sad or sick.
We'll leave that to you. We're not going to try to judge on that.
It's an interesting fact. Yeah. I actually found some pictures to prove it. So yes, then I'm going through high school. I had friends, but women didn't want to date me. It hurt your relationships, that kind of thing. Then, went off to college. Same thing. Had friends, were popular in that regard, but, not successful in the dating realm. That type of thing. My senior year in college, I lost a bunch of weight, probably about 75, 80 pounds. But then I went on a car trip with some friends, and there were cookies in the back seat.
Uh-oh.
And the cookies and I formed an intimate relationship.
Uh-huh.
And weight started coming right back on, and I put it all back on plus more. Then I graduated from college. I eventually passed the test and became what we call here in the States, we call them a CPA. Mm-hmm. Overseas, they call them chartered accountants, or right. Something like that. But same thing. Yeah, so did that, and I'm working. One of my older brothers and I, we formed a company, a real estate company, and I'm working in the company, doing all the accounting and a lot of legal type stuff. And my brother and I got in an argument one day, as brothers will do, and he started screaming at me, as brothers will do, and he says, "You're not a lawyer." And I said, "Well, I still think I'm right." He says, "You ought to go to law school." and I said, you're absolutely right. And I signed up for law school. 4 years later, I was a lawyer. It took me 4 years because I went at night. So I went part-time. So became a lawyer. And so the lesson to that story is you should always, even if you're in an argument with someone who might be totally full of crap, which he was, you should still pay attention to what they're saying, because some words of wisdom may accidentally come out of their mouth.
Yeah.
And you might want to act on those words of wisdom. So thank you, brother. Appreciate it. You did change my life, and I did show him.
But were you right?
Yeah.
You were right.
Yeah. So in law school, my last year of law school, once again, I lost a bunch of weight. This time 100 pounds. But I didn't do it by learning to eat properly. I didn't do it by exercising. I did it, by learning portion control. And so the things didn't stick. But I lost a bunch of weight. Over the next, 5 to 10 years, the weight started creeping back on. Not immediately, but started creeping back on. But I was small enough, around 265 pounds, where women were interested in me. I was still a big boy, but I was able to date, and women were interested in me. And I wound up getting married, eventually out of that, to a woman I'm still married with. That figures into the story when you get a little further down the story. Remember the still married. Remember the still married to part. Okay. Anyway, so life sometimes presents us with an opportunity to heal, an unexpected opportunity to heal. This is when I was probably about 33, 34. This is, 25, 26 years or so after my mother died. I don't remember the exact time. I should look it up, One of my mother's sisters, my aunt, died. And I went to her funeral. And when I went to her funeral and walked into the cemetery, what did I see in front of me as soon as I walked in? I saw 2 young boys. One was about 9 years old, who was crying his eyes out. And the other one was his brother, who was about 6 years old, who was standing there by himself, ice cold, not crying, not doing dumbfounded look on his face, not doing anything. Those two kids were my cousins. This was their grandmother who died. I had never met them before. I saw the younger kid and I said, that's me. You know, they always tell you to talk to your inner child.
Yeah.
Well, here it comes. I looked at him and I said, I will be damned if I let this kid go through what I went through. So I walked up to him. I introduced myself to him. I said, I'm your cousin. I said, I know exactly how you feel right now. When I was about your age, my mother died and I was cold. I couldn't cry. I didn't know what to feel. I didn't know what to think. I didn't know how life was going to go on. I didn't know what to do. And then I put my arms around him and I told him it's okay to cry. And I did not let go until he started crying.
Wow.
So there I had the opportunity to not only talk to my inner child, I got to physically hug him.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a rare treat.
And physically heal him. Oh, but it gets better, Walt. Is it okay? Is it okay to use mildly colorful language here?
Oh, you can. The FCC doesn't have a single rule to play.
I know,
here,
but I still want to respect you.
Thank you.
And ladies, we have a lady here.
That's fine.
So just then there was an elderly Jewish gentleman who was Orthodox, who was at the cemetery. Orthodox Jews do not like kids in cemeteries. They do not believe kids belong at funerals. He said out loud in front of 20 or 30 people, he says, what are these kids doing here in this cemetery? Kids don't belong at funerals. Well, I snapped. One of the few times in my life where I snapped. I turned him and I said, that was their grandmother who died. If there's anybody who belongs here at this funeral, it's those two kids. And if there's anybody who doesn't belong here at this funeral, it's you, you son of a bitch. you can get out of here right now. And he shut up and he did not say another word. So not only did I get to hug my inner child and heal my inner child, I got to defend him as well. And needless to say, all the tears that did not come out at my mother's funeral came out at that funeral.
Oh, okay.
Oh, really?
And I will jump ahead to the very end of the healing story, but then go backwards again. About 3-4 months before the COVID shutdown came. Yeah, I guess about 5 years ago, whatever. I was visiting Texas where I grew up, and I had time. I went down to Galveston, Texas, where I was born, and I retraced all my footsteps. I went to my childhood home. The lady there still remembered me. She let me in, showed me around and everything. Then I went to the cemetery. It was it was in December, beautiful sunny day, almost around noon. Sun was right overhead. I lay down on the grass between my mother and father's grave, and I told them everything I've done in my life. I told them I think you'd be proud of me. And I thanked them for everything they did for me. And even more importantly, I forgave them for everything they did to me. I said, you know, like for years I had anger that my mother didn't explain to me that she was dying. She did not prepare me for it. Hey, if she would have prepared me, but then think about it. Emery, let me ask you this. If you're 48 years old and you're a mother, how hard would it be for you to tell your 8-year-old child you're about to die? Pretty hard.
Yeah, very.
Yeah. So I forgave her. I realized that I've cut her some slack and I forgive her for that. You know, I forgive my father for not knowing how to eat better, you know, and letting me do what I did. Because he shouldn't have, but that's okay. And the funny thing is all the experiences I've gone through and what you'll hear for the rest of it, if I could go back, I would change things, but I don't regret any of them because they have taught me what I have learned. They have made me into the person I am today they have taught me the tools that I now use and teach other people so that they can do better.
Our record is intact. We have a 100% perfect record with guests who come onto the program and say exactly what you just said.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you. Your record's intact. Okay. So now let's back up. So I get married. We moved to Arizona from Texas. And I started my own law and accounting practice. And I was working hard, and I started getting bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. Never, just, this is how big I was when I was in law school, 367 pounds.
Yeah, that's a good size girl right there.
Yeah, big size.
Yeah.
And 4 months before my 50th birthday, February 1st, 2009, a little over 17 years ago, I just celebrated my 17th birthday 16 days ago. Anyway, I celebrate it every year. So I was 320 pounds at the time, not my full max, but I was still pretty big. And I asked myself, where am I going to be in 5 years if I keep doing what I'm doing?
Mm.
Would either one of you care to guess what the answer was?
In a casket.
Yeah, dead. And guess what? I did not want to be dead.
Good.
So I said, I need to make some changes right now. Not tomorrow, not next week, not next month, not next year, right now. And if you notice, that was February 1st, not January 1st.
Right.
You know why it was February 1st? Because I failed in my New Year's resolution. I didn't keep it. like so many people. This is February 16th. How many people joined a gym or started a diet who've quit by now?
Yeah.
A lot.
Presuming, of course, that they actually set that as the New Year's resolution. But
yes. Yeah. So I said, well, I'll start now. So there's a few lessons to learn there. First is, I'm a human being. I'm going to make mistakes. Anyone listening, we are all human beings. We are all going to make mistakes. We are not perfect. There are no perfect human beings. You will not be the first. I promise you, I tried. You're not going to get there.
Should we have put spoiler alert under that? Maybe, I don't know.
No spoiler alert.
Okay.
Everything is okay. When you make a mistake, mistakes are proof you're trying.
Mm-hmm.
The question is, are you going to beat yourself upside the head and quit? Or are you going to learn from the mistake and move on and get started again and move on? So that's one of the things we're going to talk about that more as we get going. So I fell off the wagon. I decided to hop back on and get going. So I turned to my wife. I said, I'm done. I'm cooked. I was not at rock bottom. They say a lot of times you have to hit rock bottom to change your life. I wasn't at rock bottom. I had not had a heart attack yet. I had not had a stroke yet. I hadn't had knee surgery yet.
But I'm sure you've gotten some warning signs. I mean, the way I like to express it is that the universe likes to tap us on the shoulder, push on the shoulder, and then give a whack on the back of the neck, and then it pulls out the 2x4 if you still haven't answered.
Bang you upside the head.
Yeah. So you basically avoid the 2x4, which I congratulate you for.
Yeah, but as I like to say, I was committing slowicide. I was slowly eating myself to death.
Yeah.
So I said, I'm going to start eating better. I'm going to learn to start eating better right now. And I'm going to learn to start exercising every day if I physically can, starting right now. So I immediately started doing 4 things. First thing I did was I quit drinking scotch.
That was a good move.
Yes, it was. I was drinking scotch every day.
I'm going to throw out a guess. That may have been one of the more challenging moves if you've been doing that for a long time.
Actually, it was easy.
Was it really?
I'm going to tell you why in a minute.
Okay.
So I'll tell you why. It was easy because I wasn't physically addicted to the scotch. I was emotionally addicted to the scotch.
And you managed to address that. That's very cool.
Yeah, there were no, I did not suffer any detox symptoms.
That's very good.
First of all, I don't even know if I was an alcoholic or not, but it doesn't matter.
No,
All that matters is I was serving the scotch and it was not serving me. And it had no place in my life. And so I got rid of it. Now I believe in symbolism here. See, I hate labels. I hate addiction, addict. I don't like labels like that. I think they're negative. And I think it messes with people's heads and makes them feel subhuman.
There's a lot to be said for that.
Makes them feel like a failure. I don't like those labels. And we're going to talk more about that as we go through my system. So I believe in symbolism. I took my last bottle of scotch, poured it down the toilet, hit flush. Gone. Haven't had a drink in 17 years. Don't miss it.
Oh, well done.
Thank you. Then those 2-liter bottles of soda pop. I was drinking 3 of those a day.
Oh my goodness. Yeah.
But hang on, Walt. They were diet caffeine free. Surely they were healthy. Surely they were healthy, right? No. But the marketing companies, the soda companies want you to think it's healthier. That's BS. They're not. So again, symbolism. I took my last bottle, poured it down the toilet, hit flush. Haven't had one in 17 years.
Very good.
Then I said, I'm going to make a diet. I'm going to add a dietary change to this. So I quit eating red meat, beef and pork. I like chicken and turkey. So I said, that's no big deal. That's easy to do. I'll just eat chicken and turkey. I'm fine. So I did that. And that's interesting because my father was a butcher. And I grew up in a home with unlimited free meat.
Wow.
And for me to quit eating.
Yeah, that's an important deal.
Pork, that was interesting. Yeah. But I did that and it wasn't that hard either. So I quit doing that. And and then I said, I'm going to start walking. Try to do it every day. In the beginning, I could only walk 2 or 3 blocks.
Mm-hmm.
And my house is at the top of a very steep street. So I was trouble walking home, huffing and puffing going home. My wife and I actually the other day, we were walking home and she turned to me. She said, remember when we used to have trouble walking up the street? And I said, yep, sure do. But, so doing that. And in the beginning, I found a gym by me that had a pool and I would go there in the middle of the night when it wasn't busy and I would walk laps in the pool.
Oh, okay.
That way it didn't beat my knees up.
Okay.
And I could sit there and do it. And I did an hour, then 2 hours, then 3 hours. And I set myself a goal that I was going to do a 5-hour pool walk on my 50th birthday.
Wow.
And I did it. It wasn't that bad. By the time I got to my 50th birthday, I'd lost about 50 pounds.
Wow.
And I started walking outside. I got to the point where I could walk outside. And so kept going, did that for about 4 or 5 years. Then I said, and by then my walking activity had really ramped up. I was probably walking 10 miles a day.
Very good.
I guess that's 15 kilometers, give or take.
Mm-hmm.
I started walking that every day, pretty much. And I said, well, actually at that point, not almost every day, most of the time, but I'd have days where I'd take off. But
if you're doing that at least 3, 4, 5 days a week, you're doing very well.
Yeah. So I said, I'm going to make another push here. I gave up chicken and turkey. I still was eating eggs. I was still doing dairy, but essentially I went vegetarian. That was that was about 12 and a half years ago. Since the day I went vegetarian, I have been sick one time in that 12 and a half years. And I define sick as being so sick that I can't walk at least 2 hours a day.
Okay.
That's how I define sick. Since then, in that 12 years, I've had 3 days where I missed walking at least 2 hours a day. That was 8 years ago. And if you would have told me those 3 days would have interrupted what would have been a 12-year streak, I would have gotten out and I would have walked on those days anyway. Because that's how stubborn I was, but we'll get to that. So I made dietary changes, started losing more weight, got good. But then I got about 4 or 5 years into that. I stalled at 180 pounds. I couldn't get below 180. No matter what I did, couldn't get below there. And it would fluctuate 180, 190, 200, 190, 180. It wasn't totally stable. So I said, I'm doing something wrong here, because by that time I was walking 10 to 15 miles every day. And I said, if I'm walking that much and I'm not losing more weight, I'm doing something wrong here. So I said, what am I doing? I analyzed it and I said, I'm going to give up butter, cheese, and ice cream. I gave up dairy and I went vegan. Well, guess what happened when I gave up butter, cheese, and ice cream? I lost 50 pounds in like 5 minutes. I mean, I'd get up every morning, another pound, another pound, another pound, another pound. That was exciting, made you want to go to the scale.
Sure, yeah.
But, so I was doing that, and that was when I really whipped myself into shape. And since that time, I've continued to eat that way. I was still eating a lot of processed food. But since that time, a few years back, I stopped eating processed food. I make all my own food. It's natural food. It's healthy food. I mean, if you look right here, I've got a hydroponic garden here in my office.
Okay.
Nice.
Right there over the side. And I sit there. So far, I've made about 10 salads out of them. I think they've cost me about $100. They've cost me about $100 each when you consider how much I paid for the garden. But that's okay. It's going to keep going. So I did all that and I got into shape. Well, this experience taught me two things, and it led me to ask a question. The first thing it taught me was I am more powerful than I ever imagined. Way more powerful. I'll give you an example. Since that day, I said, I'm going to start walking. I have walked 72,000 miles over the last 17 years. If you go to the Earth at the equator, that is 2.92 times around the Earth at the equator.
Wow.
And I'm not finished. I'm keep going.
I'm sure.
I've got it scheduled right now. If I stay on track, I'm going to hit on my birthday. I'm going to hit 3 times.
Wow.
I'm trying to time it so that happens. But just last year alone, I walked 5,166 miles. Basically, if I started in Los Angeles, I made it within 300 miles of Emory in London, London area. And I ended up in the middle of the Atlantic, but since I know how to swim, I was okay.
That's a good thing, yeah.
Yeah. But the point is, I don't say that to brag. I say that to show you how powerful I've become as an example for the next thing. Because I said, if I'm more powerful than I ever imagined, so is everybody else.
How about that?
You are more powerful than you ever imagined. Know that. Believe it. I'm telling you that right now. People ask me why I walk as much as I do every day. It's because I can.
It's good.
I'm trying to find my limits. I haven't found them yet because I'm very careful with what I do, because I realize the goal is to push my body and see what it can do, not to break my body.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I'm interested in carrying on a little extra conversation here between you and Anne-Marie, because Anne-Marie is also a vegetarian. And I mean, your journeys are different.
Yeah.
Your journey you laid out is different from the journey that she's gone through, but there are enough similarities that I want to bring her in and talk about this. So Anne-Marie, I mean, like I said, you've mentioned many times, you are a vegetarian. You feed a family meat, but you don't eat the meat yourself.
Yeah.
So talk a little bit about what your experience has been in ways that are similar to Stanley's and different from Stanley's toward your own, I won't call it an objective, your milestone of becoming vegetarian.
Well, I never really liked meat. When I was younger, I was the kid who was couldn't leave the table until I'd finished all my dinner, and it was always the meat that was left over, and I just didn't like it. But I ate it because I had to. Back when I was a kid, you know, you couldn't be fussy. You either ate it or you went hungry. But I didn't enjoy it, and then when I realized what it was, I didn't want to eat it. It just doesn't feel right for me to eat it.
You did it for moral reasons.
No, I did it because I didn't like it.
Well,
if I did it for moral reasons, I wouldn't feed it to my family. But I'm also very aware that, you know, it's their choice.
Yeah.
And even when one of my daughters wanted to go vegetarian, I was like, you still need to eat fish because there's good stuff in fish. Okay. But they eat it now, and I cook 2 meals. But for me, it was, I think if I ate it, it just feels like I'll be eating something heavy.
Okay.
Be eating something that I just couldn't digest. I mean, I've had accidentally eaten bits of meat here and there in restaurants when they've served something in rice, for example, and it's made me feel very sick. But for me, I didn't like it. When I found out what it was, I didn't want to eat it, but I did eat it because I had to. But when I had made that decision, and actually for me, I mean, I love my fruit, I love my veg, I love my pulses, I love chickpeas. I try and incorporate the protein because my body needs muscle. So for me, it's my body, it likes that way of eating.
Yeah, that's actually an important question. What's your your selected way of incorporating the protein, Stanley? I mean, how do you go about doing that?
First of all, she just told you, very similar to hers. Okay. Today, I had a big bowl of 5 bean soup, full of 5 different kinds of beans, which are loaded with protein. Served over. Oh, sorry. And when I make the soup, I cook it in the pressure cooker. I also throw in a pound of tofu just to add a little bit of extra protein to it, and then grind it all up in the blender to make a soup. So it's heavily protein infused tomato soup is what it was with beans in it. Then I ate it over a bowl of 8 grains that I make, all of which collectively have more than probably 2 times the protein of brown rice, and way more times the protein than white rice. So again, very high protein. And then I eat lots of raw unsalted nuts. I don't believe in adding sodium, although to me, the only people who should be, if you're an outdoor worker who sweats a lot, or an athlete who sweats a lot, then you should be adding sodium to your diet. Otherwise, most people don't need added sodium. And there's, way too much in most of the processed foods that we eat. So, I do the raw because if you eat, even unsalted nuts, most of them are cooked in peanut oil. So they're adding extra fat to the mix that you don't need. And when I take with those raw unsalted nuts, I throw them in the air fryer for 8 or 9 minutes and then let them cool off. It brings out the natural oils that are in the nuts, and they're addictive. They're delicious. So I eat that. I eat lots of fruit. I eat lots of salads. I eat, things like oatmeal, hemp seed, chia seed, flax seed, lots of things. I make sure I get my protein. And I tell a lot of people that, a lot of, I remember I made a pie, banana almond date pie, and I gave it to my pool guy who comes every week. He always likes to sample my food, trying to get him to eat healthy. And I gave him a piece of pie, and he says, "What good is this?" I said, "This piece of pie has more protein in it than that steak you're going to eat for dinner." And he says, "Really?" And I said, "Yeah." And I explained it to him. I eat lots of chickpeas. Another thing I make, have you tried this? Have you ever sprouted chickpeas?
No.
Okay. I will need, if you give me your email, if Walt will send me your email address, I'll send you a recipe. I have a video on it and everything. Okay. You regular chickpeas will not sprout. You need to go to the Indian market, and you need to get what's called Kala Chana, Kalachana. It's chickpeas with the skin on them.
Okay.
They call them black chickpeas. They have the skin on them. You take those and you sprout them. It takes like 4 or 5 days, and and they have these little white sprouts that come out. You're eating them raw, and the bioavailability of the nutrients in the chickpeas is off the charts.
Really?
And it works with lentils. These are all things. I make black lentils. My wife loves to put them in her salads and stuff. She eats them all the time, and it works with lots of kinds of beans and everything. So you get creative. You learn things, Walt. But for me, it was learning to eat things that are different than when I grew up.
Oh, sure. Yeah. Yeah. I was just curious how you'd solve the issue.
No, it wasn't.
Marie, I'm sure you've had to say, face the same question. Like how do you, when you were trying to adjust your own vegetarianism, how did you go about deciding what proteins to include in your diet?
To be fair, it's only in the last couple of years since I've been lifting weights and stuff to get my body stronger that I've even discovered that my body needs protein. I used to use, we've got this meat substitute that's quite high in protein. TVP,
textured vegetable protein.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
And I've always loved things like tofu and eggs and things like that. So I've had much, but it's only in the last couple of years that I've realized the importance of it, which is why now, I start my mornings with Greek yogurt and I have seeds on it, and my fruit and I usually throw a date on there as well. And then like for lunch, I usually have like eggs or beans or like a soup with chickpeas in. So yeah, I really do try and get my protein in because it's so good for you.
That's one of the most interesting things, talking to vegetarians, and it's fun to have two of you on the program at the same time, because the solutions that people come up with are very individual. I don't think I've heard the same story about what protein choices people made from two different vegetarians.
I even sometimes make my own soy yogurt.
Do you really?
Yeah.
I've got a maker where you can do that. I haven't done it in a while. But you get the right bacteria for a culture, and you start it, and you got to make sure you get soy milk that has 2 ingredients: soybeans and water. That's because a lot of soy milks have a lot of added stuff in it. But you can make your own soy yogurts. Yeah, so it's all good. I mean, what she's describing, is all good. And I'm gonna share a little secret with you, Walt. Everyone thinks that they're not getting enough protein, when the reality is they're not getting enough fiber. And they really need to get more fiber. And
what's the basis for that?
Everything I described is full of fiber. Beans, full of fiber. Grains, full of fiber. Nuts, full of fiber.
Okay, but I mean, what's the basis for your claim that people don't get enough fiber? Why do they need to have more fiber? What's behind that?
Because they don't go to the bathroom enough. They think they do. Okay, I asked. Okay, we're going to get a little intimate here. I asked people, when I start working with them. I mean, I'll give you the story of one particular lady. She was pre-diabetic, 40-something years old, chronically constipated, felt very sluggish and everything. Then she came to my office and actually sat down and talked with me. And she said, my stomach hurts. I can't go to the bathroom and all this and all that. She said, I told her, I gave her the stuff. I gave her some, and I told her how to make the sprouted lentils, full of fiber. And I showed her an oatmeal recipe, start eating this oatmeal and add chia seed, hemp seed, flaxseed to it. All these things full of fiber, do all these things. That was a Saturday when I met with her. Wednesday morning, I got a text with her. I went to the bathroom. Yay! Yeah. She was so excited she had to text me at 6 a.m. to let me know she went to the bathroom. My sister-in-law, she has had problems with chronic constipation. I taught her how to sprout chickpeas. Just like I was telling you. She started doing those. She eats them every day now and she loves them. Guess what? She doesn't have the problem with chronic constipation anymore. But everybody thinks you need to go to the doctor to take a pill. A lot of it can be solved with diet. And a lot of this too, it's based upon research that I read.
Mhm.
You know, and the people who I read are primarily, you know, they're the whole food plant-based doctors, as they call it. See, I'll share a secret with you. You can be vegan or vegetarian and eat a crappy diet.
Yeah.
Very crappy diet. You know, Oreos are vegan. I don't recommend people eat those as their main food.
I never thought of that as vegan, but thank you for clarifying.
You know,
a lot of the convenience vegan food is so highly processed.
Oh, absolutely. I don't touch it.
It's just not good for you.
I won't touch it.
It's
Okay.
worse.
I was in the grocery store today. I was walking through Walmart this morning. They have a new brand called Better Goods. And I said, let's see how much better these are. They had a frozen thing, Spanish skillet mix or whatever. To make the picture look delicious. Better Goods. Turn the back. Small little package, 3,000 milligrams of sodium in the package. They had a pizza, Better Goods pizza, 3,000 milligrams of sodium. But they call it Better Goods, and people read the front label and they see it says Better Goods, so they think it's good for them. You got to read the back label. The back label, at least here in the States, that's where all the interesting information is.
Yeah, that's true.
And that's what you need to know.
But the other interesting thing, and I'm kind of glad that you're bringing us to this. I'm not sure if this was your intention, but certainly where I'm seeing it, I'm loving how you tell the story of how you took responsibility for your own health.
That's we're getting to that. Let me.
Well, I think we're actually already there, and it's the point that I like to bring up a lot because it's something that people. I think more and more people are becoming aware that it's a possibility. And so in that sense, more and more people are perhaps taking little baby steps in that direction. But boy, oh boy, you want to do it. If you want to do something to get yourself away from being tied to what a doctor is telling you, that's one of the best things you can do.
Okay.
Doing the research to take responsibility for your own health, starting with the food that you eat. It's wonderful that you're doing that.
Okay. Thank you. First of all, that's the third thing I was going to talk about. But
see, well, we mix things up around here. So
what I will do is I will go 3, 1, 2 instead of 1, 2, 3.
Okay.
I can handle that. So yes, but I need to give a teeny bit of backstory. As I did this, I'm back to my business background, attorney and CPA. My whole career, I've made a living taking complicated things and making them simple.
Always good.
So I said, how do I turn what I've learned into a system that others can use to change their lives, be it weight loss, be it drinking, be it smoking, be it something else. Just want to be successful, be it whatever. How can I turn this into a system? So I said, okay, the first thing I realized was the goal is not perfection. The goal is excellence. We talked about that a little bit earlier.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. A perfectionist, nothing's good enough until you get all the way to the top. And I already told you, you're never going to get there. So you're never going to be happy if you're a perfectionist. I'm no longer a perfectionist. I've become a good enoughist.
That's good. I like that.
Good enough is good enough. Now, but here's the excellence part. You can be good just because you're good enough doesn't mean you can't try to be better. Sure, you can try. I'm constantly working to get better than I was. My goal is every January 1st to be better than I was the January 1st before.
Yeah, you said that your goal was not to be perfectionistic; it was to be excellent. My goal is to be better.
Yeah,
same thing. I'm always better. I'm always better. Better is better.
Different words, same thing.
Same thing. Yeah,
same thing.
And it has a nice incremental side to it as well. So yes, it's never ending. It's continuous. That just keeps bringing you back to the same idea over and over again. All right, let's get better. Let's get better. Let's get better.
You're making me go backwards again. You just jumped to number 2.
I'm good at that. You're going to have to get used to this, Stanley. Okay. This is the way this works on this program.
Okay, hang on. So I said, how do I turn it into a system? So I said, if it's excellence, I came up with something called the way of excellence. And you can tell I'm an accountant. Look how anal this chart is. Everything is color-coded. It's color-coded. It lines up. It's nice and pretty. But I sat there and I said, what are the qualities of an excellent human being? And I came up with 20. And I said, okay, what order do I put them in? I put them in a logical order. Walt seems to prefer 3, 2, 1 as opposed to 1, 2, 3. So we will cover them that way.
I didn't even know what the numbering was. All of a sudden, wow.
I know. Okay. But we're thinking alike. That's the important part. We're on the same wavelength.
Yeah, definitely same wavelength. Yeah.
I took personal responsibility for where I was at. It wasn't my mother's fault that she died when I was 8 years old. It wasn't my father's fault that he didn't know how to tell me to eat better or to make me eat better. It wasn't my father's fault that he didn't know to get me counseling that I needed. It wasn't any of those things. It was nobody's fault. And while I'm at it, it wasn't my fault either.
I love that.
You know why? Blame is irrelevant. And somebody should tell our politicians in Washington that blame is irrelevant.
Yeah, good luck with that one, but I agree with you.
I'm telling them right now. Okay. Blame does not solve problems.
The challenge where politics is concerned, that unfortunately it does get you elected, but we're not going to go that direction.
Yeah, no, we're not.
You're right. Blame really doesn't actually play any useful role.
Blame does not solve problems.
No.
All that solves problems is figuring out what needs to be done and then doing it. I figured out what I needed to do and I started doing it. But, so that's number 3. Now we'll back up to number 2. I realized that this was a long-term game I was playing. Not a short-term game. See, I was always playing how can I go on a diet for a month and lose the weight I need to lose?
And you probably did for a month.
Yeah. That's not the answer. That's why, because temporary change gives you temporary results. Permanent change gives you permanent results. You want to permanently change, you need to permanently change. So, you about to say something? So I am.
Well, I mean, I was going to eventually bring in, I thought it might tie into your next thing, but I'll bring it in now.
Okay.
I was going to say that the thing that I love is how you keep emphasizing the different ways that you can work on yourself, and you're doing it in ways that are kind to yourself. You
Yes.
don't beat yourself up. You don't beat the crap out of yourself.
That's number 12. That's number 12.
Well, I'm not surprised, but my point is that I'm loving that, because that is a really big deal. And it's something that I wanted to point to, because I kind of only noticed this last bit over the last couple of years. The kinder that you are to yourself, it turns out the kinder you end up being to everybody else.
You think?
And it's
really?
one of those little side effect things that it never occurred to me that would happen. And when it did happen, when the first time that came back to me as evidence that the greater kindness I had shown to myself was also being shown to other people without me realizing it, that my reaction was, I did that? Really? Because I couldn't believe it. That's
number 8.
That's number 8. Okay.
I'm telling you, this is a comprehensive system here. So I said this is a long-term game we're playing. So I started playing the long term. I realized every time I went to a Chinese buffet, I was mortgaging my long-term future. Every time I went home from work and sat on my butt, that was mortgaging my long-term future. Every time I drank a bottle of scotch, that was mortgaging my long-term future. But the problem is we live in a short-term world. We have everything at our fingertips. We can get it instantly, but we need to use our brains and our minds to control what we do. Just because you can get it instantly doesn't necessarily mean you should.
Now, I'm going to throw a little curveball and see how you respond to it, because of what you said there. The way you said that was very interesting to me. You said if we use our brains, and then you filled in the gap. And the thing I want to throw at you as the curveball is, what's the role of the heart in that diagram?
It's very important. Same thing. You're touching on number 20. But you're touching on there. Okay, this is 20. We have our mind, body, and spirit.
Okay.
Okay. When I was big, I was all mind. I'd sit at my desk all day. I'd do my legal and accounting work. I wouldn't exercise, anything. That was my mind. You see this little figure in the middle there?
Oh, yeah.
That's where you want to be. You want to be balanced in the center. You know,
Yeah.
I was all mind. I was, you know, way over here. I needed to work on the body to get over toward there. And the funny thing was, once I started working on my body, I became all body, and I started neglecting my mind. I didn't want to do my work. You know,
Well, you had to go through the pendulum thing in order to get yourself into balance.
seems that way, doesn't it?
Yeah. Well, that's the way it often works. I mean, especially if we have a habitual pattern that is always pushed in one particular direction, and we realize, oh, I don't have to do that anymore. We try that other side that we hadn't been playing with because we had not visited it before. And then we realize where the balance is, and then we end up aiming for the balance. But yeah, you kind of have to go to that other side.
See, but what I figured out, Walt, if you look here, 3 parts. If you notice inside the mind, there's a blue and green yin yang.
Yeah.
That's because the body and the spirit feed the mind.
Absolutely. Yeah.
If you look inside the body, there's a green and red yin yang because the mind and spirit feed the body.
That's right.
And likewise, the body and the mind feed the spirit.
Yep.
They all work together,
all
and cancel each other, and you want them all connected and all working together. But not only are they all connected, we're all connected.
Yeah.
I'm connected to you. You're connected to me.
Mm-hmm.
We're connected to each other.
Absolutely. Yeah.
You know, okay, so we got 3, 2, 1, and we did 20. I'm going to kind of jump around.
I just have to ask you, Emery, can you remember the last person we had somebody who had everything perfectly numbered like this? I mean, this is fascinating. He's got everything.
I'm an accountant. I mean, honestly.
Okay. Anyway, so I'm telling you, the system's got it covered. Anyway, trust me, I've tried it for years on tons of people. It's there. Okay. Anyway, 6, perspective. Okay. Everything I've described about what I do sounds pretty hard, doesn't it? Sounds like a chore.
Sometimes.
Okay. I have to get up and go walking today. I have to eat healthy today. Ugh. Well, I learned a lesson 2 years before I started on my journey, 2007. I interviewed a woman in Honolulu, Hawaii. Her name was Peggy Chun. I interviewed her for a book that I was writing, where I was driving around the entire United States, and I had 50 people I was going to interview for a book I was writing about. I was going to talk about each of the 50 people. And she was like the first or the second person I talked to because I started in Hawaii. She had Lou Gehrig's disease at the time. Completely bedridden, on a ventilator, could not speak, could not move.
Wow.
The only way she could communicate was trained people would hold up an eye chart and they could read her eye movements. She could spell words. So it took me like 2 hours to do a 20-minute interview with her.
Right.
But when I saw her, the thought that went through my mind was, if I ever get like that, please put a pillow over my head and take me out. Well, guess what? That was not her thought. Her thought was, my grandkids are coming over later today. We're going to go out to the park. It's a beautiful sunny day, and we're going to play in the park. And she sat there and she told me, she asked me, she said, you're going to go around the country and interview all these 50 people? Tell me who they are. That sounds so exciting. I wished I could go with you. You know, this woman had joy for life.
Yeah.
So whenever I had mornings where I didn't feel like walking, you know, they say, what would Jesus do? I started saying, what would Peggy Chun do?
Ah, there you go.
I love that.
And the answer is Peggy Chun would have gotten her lazy ass out of bed if she could have, and she would have gone for a walk, and she probably would have never come back. So every time I didn't feel like walking, I said, this one's for you, Peggy. And I went walking.
Perspective is an amazing thing. For myself, my own experience, I got so much perspective over the years, as Anne-Marie knows, just from doing this program, because I've interviewed hundreds of different people, and they all have different viewpoints. They all have different ideas and thoughts and so forth. And I've mentioned many times, one of the most fascinating facts to me is how I enjoy the perspective of people I agree with, but I learn more from the ones I disagree with.
I know.
I mentioned that many times because that perspective of the people I disagree with has taught me almost more than anything else in my life.
And sometimes you learn how ignorant they are. But
sometimes I learn how ignorant I am.
Yeah,
It works both ways.
yes, it does. You're correct. The person who, that's another thing I learned. I like to say I'm always right except for when I'm wrong.
Yeah, right.
No, what I learned was I stopped saying I have to do this, and I started saying I get to do this.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
That's perspective, and you
That
did
is.
label it correctly. Number 6, the law of perspective. So you did label it correctly. So then I started expanding my vision. That's number 7. I said, what are these big, bold dreams I can have? You know, I have a dream that I want to get thousands, hundreds of thousands of overweight people to lose 20 pounds or more by eating healthy, not with drugs, not with surgery. That's a crazy dream, but that's my dream, and I'm working on it.
Great dream. I love it.
Yeah. And, you know, I want to change lives. I have a dream that I want to help thousands, millions of people it took me 49 and a half years to change my life in an instant.
Yeah.
I now teach people how to change their life in an instant without waiting 49 and a half years.
Yeah.
That's fantastic.
You know, that's what, then since this is the law of attraction, I'll talk about this one, the LOA. I have what I call the law of reciprocity, where until we learn to give first with no expectation of return, we're not going to attract what we want.
Mm-hmm.
You know, a lot of people think the law of attraction is to stick a magnet out and say, money, money, come here. That's not the way it works. You know, as I like to say, if enough people would start giving to each other, eventually someone's going to give something to you. You know, and it may not be the same person you gave to. It might be somebody else. You know, but you know, this crazy world would be much better off if we all would help each other. I think we all can agree on that. You know, so now talk about that. Then taking consistent action. That's number 10. I used to say I wanted to get in shape, and then I'd go to Chinese buffets and sit on my butt and drink. Is that gonna get me in shape? No. So I quit that. I started taking actions that were consistent with what I wanted to do, eating healthy. And what I thought was healthy in the beginning, it evolved over time.
I know you want to get through the whole 20. I got to point out to you, we got about 2 minutes left.
Okay. We're gonna jump. Let's just jump. We're gonna jump to 16, willingness. Okay. I used to think the 3 most important words in the English language were "I love you." I don't think that anymore. I think they're "Are you willing?" Unless you're willing to do what it takes permanently for the rest of your hopefully very long, very healthy, very happy life, you're not going to get there. So the question is, are you willing? Then there's belief. Believe in yourself. If you believe you can or you believe you can't, either way, you're going to be right. Mm-hmm. I've already told you, you're more powerful than you ever imagine. Start believing in yourself. Then, you know, all this stuff sounds hard. Well, number 19 is commitment. When you become 100% committed to something, it becomes easier. I am 100% committed that only healthy foods can enter my mouth. The other day, when somebody tried to give me key lime pie, I said, thank you, but no thank you. The thought of eating it never entered my mind because I only eat healthy food. When I have a day where I don't feel like walking, I do it anyway because I am a person who walks. I'm 100% committed to doing it. All those things. I'm going to leave everybody with a goal for you to remember. Your goal is simple. Beat yesterday.
Okay.
Get better today than you were yesterday. And sometimes breaking even or not falling apart is beating yesterday.
Sure.
And I am now in year 18 of beating yesterday. And that is how the person on the left side of this picture has become the person on the right side of the picture.
Which is fantastic.
We have the same DNA, but we're not the same people.
Yeah. And when most of the people listening to the episode don't see the video, they only hear the audio, so they can't see the picture. But I can assure you folks, The two people that you saw in those pictures looked vastly different.
Okay, I'll tell you. In the left picture, I had a 58-inch waist. In the right picture, I had a 31-inch waist.
Yeah, that'll summarize it right.
You do the math.
Yeah, good stuff.
That's great.
This has been really fun. We have a few things we actually like to do as part of our summary at the end of the show. First and foremost, we didn't really touch on this, but we should actually give you a chance to tell people the most important thing of all. How do they find you? How do they find what you're doing? How do they learn about what you're talking about?
Go to my website, which you'll hopefully put in the show notes, thewayofexcellence.com. Thewayofexcellence.com. And if people go there, there are videos on the whole system, free. They're 8 to 12 minutes each. Just watch one video a day. By the end of a month, you'll have chewed through the whole system. And you'll learn what's going on. 9 of my books are on the website, all available digitally for free. It's not that I don't love money. I do. and if you want to hire me privately, to work with you privately, you're welcome to do so. But you don't have to. If you don't have money or you don't want to spend the money, that's okay. The information is there. The books are there. It's all there. Go through it. It will help you. It is my way of giving back because I am grateful. Remember I said, give first with no expectation of return? No. And at the bottom of the page, of every page, there's a link where you can click if you want to email me. If you want to email me because you want to work with me privately, that's fine. You have a question, send it to me, that's fine. If you want to just say thank you, that's fine. Any of those things are appreciated. If you have a negative comment, don't write to me. I don't need to hear it.
Well, you can answer a second question that I often ask is, do you want to hear from people? I think the answer is very clearly yes, you want to hear from people. So
yeah, sure,
thank you for answering that one.
Absolutely. It makes me feel great. I had a guy over Christmas who I had never talked to tell me he went to my website, got the information on how to eat healthy, and in 6 months lost about 60, 70 pounds.
Oh, good for him.
Wow.
Told him he was having he went to the hospital with kidney problems in July. By December, everything was okay. And he just said thank you. And he said thank you. That was it.
That is fantastic.
I didn't make a penny off of him. Do you think that made me feel good? Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I ran to my wife, Julie, look.
I love it.
Yeah.
Well, like I said, we have 3 things we do. The second thing I like to do is I like to have Anne-Marie give a summary, partly because, well, first of all, she had the thing in common with you. You're both vegetarian. She's also a former listener who became a co-host. So I kind of equate her to being the listening audience. She has the listening audience point of view. So I always want to know, how are they thinking about this stuff? So today, especially Anne-Marie, how is the audience thinking about this conversation?
Okay, so I thought there was some brilliant stuff in there. I loved all that, believe in yourself. You've got to have the willingness, the commitment, even if it's not all of those 20, you can take 1 or 2 and you can live by that. And like you say, just get better every day. And I also love the saying, mistakes are proof that you're trying, because I think we quite often, we say that people beat themselves up over mistakes, but we see it as a learning opportunity. But actually just going, I made a mistake, but at least I had a go. I thought that was really good.
I made plenty of them.
We all do, but you're right. It comes down to that mindset. So it's having the power of the habits and making changes which are small that you can build on, but especially be kind to yourself. Embrace your good enoughness. You don't have to be perfect. Your good enoughness with your mind, body, and your spirit. And I did love also, what would Peggy do? What a great way of thinking. Yeah. So yeah, that's what I think the listeners might be taking from it today.
Okay. See, that's why I love what you say when you do these summaries for us, because I really do believe you represent what listeners are hearing. So what you're feeding back to me says, wow, listeners, they got a lot out of this program.
Yeah,
you're better.
Sure.
You're better than AI.
I'm not real.
You're very convincing. Let's leave it at that.
I'm not real.
Finally, the last thing I like to do with each program, and it fits in beautifully with one of the last comments that you made, Stanley, because now that we live in the 21st century where we can do this thing where you're in Scottsdale, Arizona, I'm near Hartford, Connecticut, Anne-Marie is near London in the United Kingdom, and we're able to have this conversation like we're in the same living room, which is a wonderful thing. It's kind of a small microcosm of the large macrocosm of all these different ways we can reach out to people that we didn't have 40 years ago. And today it's just every day we can do this. This is something we take for granted.
It's fun, isn't it?
It's amazing. It's fantastic. And one of the things that goes along with it, I noticed a few years back, is we not only do we take for granted that it's happening, but like you said, it's really important to be able to help people. And that's one of the things that happens here. We end up helping people just by having these conversations. We have people who will listen in who will never find out what they did. We'll never find out what they picked up. I mean, I'll listen to Anne-Marie to get some idea of it, but for the most part, we'll never know what it is they picked up. And then they'll go off and do something. They'll make an improvement. And it was because of a ripple that we started here. And we don't get credit for that. And
that's okay. That's okay. That's okay.
I say to myself, you know what? We deserve to give credit for that kind of thing. So that's why, Stanley, at the end of every program, I like to say to the guests like you, Stanley, on behalf of those people that you've never met and that you've never seen and never will meet, never will see, who you've been helping on a daily basis in ways you didn't even know about, on their behalf, thank you for what you're doing, because you're making a difference in this world.
You're welcome. Thank you.
We really appreciate you. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for taking the time. Best of luck with what you're doing. I think it's wonderful what you're doing. And we're really glad that you shared it with us today. Thank you to our podcast listeners everywhere. And we will see you all next time here on LOA Today. Goodbye, everybody.